So there's a lot of different chapters of bankruptcy. Which one's right for you? Watch our next video and find out. So if you're having financial difficulties and you're actually considering filing for bankruptcy, what chapter do you file? Because there's a lot of different chapters of bankruptcy. Well, the two chapters that really apply to people like myself and you would either be Chapter 7 or Chapter 13. These are completely different creatures. It just depends on what you have going on. So, for example, most people, I think, when they think of bankruptcy, they're thinking of a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is where you're just getting rid of all of your unsecured debt. But a Chapter 7 bankruptcy isn't going to help you restructure anything. Now, with a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, it's great for folks that, maybe their income, they're not making a lot, or they could have lost their job, so they don't have any income, but they have a ton of credit card debt, medical bills, collections, things like that. But they don't own property, or if they do, they don't have a lot of equity in that property, and they just need to clear debt and move on. So that is a Chapter 7. And Chapter 7s are great if that fits your situation, but for some folks, maybe they make too much money, or maybe they actually have assets that they do not want a Chapter 7 trustee to liquidate. And here's something people need to really be aware of with Chapter 7s. Chapter 7 cases are not like Chapter 13 cases. If you file a Chapter 7 case and all of a sudden you have a trustee that's like, oh, they realize you have all this equity in your home, or that you, maybe in your bank account, and they want to take that and use it to pay your creditors, plus get their nice little commission fee on doing that, you can't just dismiss your case. And as a matter of fact, a lot of Chapter 7 trustees are going to fight you tooth and nail, and you'll actually have to go to court. There's a big hearing. It's not just an absolute right to dismiss your case. So, it's very, very important that if you're going to file a Chapter 7 case, you really better know that you qualify and that you don't have any assets that are going to be subject to liquidation, which means the trustee will sell your stuff, pay your bills. So be careful. The other type of bankruptcy and actually the majority of cases that we usually file, are Chapter 13 bankruptcies. And Chapter 13 bankruptcies are debt consolidation repayment plans under the federal courts. Some folks have to pay all of their debt back. Some folks only have to pay a percentage of their unsecured debt back. And a nice thing about Chapter 13 that you can't do in Chapter 7 is you can actually we call them cram downs. I know that's a nice word, but we can cram down valuations a lot of times on vehicles, on the interest rates. So, for example, if you have a car loan, one of these lovely companies for 29%. In our district, we can usually cram down your interest to around 5.5 or 6%, which is great. On top of it, if you've had your car at least 910 days, we can even cram down the amount you're going to pay back to just the value. So if you're underwater on a vehicle, that's great. So there's a lot of things you can do in a 13 that you can't in a Chapter 7. Again, it just depends on your situation. Especially if you're someone, like for instance, if we have a lot of folks that file 13s because they're behind on child support, and they're looking at losing their license or looking at going to jail, they can file a Chapter 13, take the amount that they got behind on those arrears, put them into a Chapter 13 repayment plan, and they're good. Of course, they have to continue to make their regular monthly child support payments, but they're not going to go to jail, and they're certainly not going to lose their license. So Chapter 13 has a lot of different nuances to it. It's not that one is better than the other, it's just they're very different. Now, a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is going to be on your credit report 10 years from the date that you filed your case. Chapter 13 bankruptcy is going to be on your credit report 7 years from the time that you file. So there is a little bit of a difference in terms of how they report on your credit. I personally would not make that the deciding factor. I think it's very important that when folks are looking at bankruptcy, you really need to look at what you want. That's one of the things we always ask clients is, what is your best case scenario? What are you looking to do? Because you know your life better than we do. Maybe in 6 months you're going to have the money to pay more and to restructure your debt, so you want to keep your house or you want to keep your car. Maybe you know that you're getting ready to move to Tahiti in a year or in 6 months, and you're just gonna let everything go. That's great. We can do a 7, no big deal. But just make sure that, when you're meeting with an attorney about trying to decide what do I file, because it's funny, we have clients all the time and they come in like, I need to file this, and it's totally opposite of what they need to file. Make sure that you're letting your attorney know what it is exactly that you're trying to do, because it's very important that your attorney understand what your goal is. And sometimes we have to bring folks to reality and say, that's a nice goal, but that's not going to happen the way you want it to. Or maybe it can happen, but you're going to have to pay more, everyone back. I mean, there's lots of different situations. But just remember that, Chapter 7 and Chapter 13, these are usually the type of bankruptcies that are filed by consumers. Yes, there are some individuals that do file for Chapter 11, but these are individuals that have debts, secured or unsecured debts, that are actually going way above the debt limits. The majority of people that file for bankruptcy are filing either Chapter 7 or Chapter 13. If you have any questions, we're always happy to answer questions. Our information is below in the description, and you can reach out to us via email, and we'll be happy to assist.